Today, I am taking a look at SETI from CGE. This is a game all about space and extraterrestrial intelligence. In fact, SETI stands for the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. So, first, I'll show you how it plays. We'll check out the solo mode a little bit. Then, I'll come back and share with you some of my thoughts. This is a review copy of this game that was provided to me by CGE. So, let's go ahead and take a look at how it plays. Okay, so here we have a game of SETI that is set up and ready to go. You can see there's a lot of stuff happening in this game. You've got the main kind of planet area right here. You've got a sideboard over here. You've got more stuff happening over here. So lots of things going on. This is the solo modes components. And so we'll go over how the solo mode works here in a second. But first, I'm just going to kind of give you an overview of how you play the game. So throughout the course of the game, what you're going to be doing is this game is called SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. So you're going to be launching these probes, orbiting and landing on these planets, scanning, gaining some tech throughout the course of the game, lots of different things. So when you start the game, you'll pick a color and you'll get your card and your starting resources right here. And then you'll flip this card over and tuck a card underneath it. And that will be recurring income that you will get throughout the course of the game. So every round, when you start a new round, you will get anything that you have tucked under that initial card. And you'll tuck more cards under there as the game goes on. So I've got my cards right here that I'm going to be starting out with. And how you play cards is you just pay credits. And all these cards do different things. There's a huge stack of cards that come in the game, and every card has something different on it. So for one of my first turns, what I would normally do when I play this game is launch a probe, get a probe out there on the board, and start moving it to be able to land an orbit on a planet. So I will go ahead and play this card, which is going to let me launch a probe and then also move one spot. There's lots of iconography in this game, but once you learn it and get it down, it's really not too bad. Also, the game comes with a fantastic player aid that literally has every icon that you might encounter throughout the course of the game. So props to CGE for that. That is very, very useful. So I'll go ahead and play this card, and I will launch a probe. Now, when you launch a probe, you have to start on Earth. Every time you're going to launch from Earth. And then I get to move one. So we'll move kind of over here towards Venus. So you can pay cards to possibly move. There's icons in the top left corner of the cards that are free actions, and you can just take that and use that card for that free action. It's not as good usually as this action that you would pay credits for, but sometimes if you want to move one more spot, or maybe you want to get some publicity, get some data, whatever the case may be, there's lots of different things that you can use those cards for as a free action. So we've gone ahead and moved one spot. We're going to say we can go ahead and move a second one here, and we'll be on Venus. So once we get to Venus, we gain one publicity because there's a little marker there that you get publicity. And the main way you're going to get publicity is by visiting these various planets and also going to the various planets. So now that we're on Venus, we could orbit the planet or we could land on the planet. That's two of the other actions that you can take throughout the course of the game. So for Venus, if we were going to orbit on the planet, we would pay one credit and one energy, and then we would orbit right up here in this top section. If you're the first person to do something in this game, in SETI, you're normally going to get an advantage that not everybody else is going to get. So we would get 3 victory points for being the first one there. And then just if anybody was there, they'd get 6 victory points. And they'd also get to tuck another card from their hand to get income. And also they would get that income right away. So if we tuck this card right over here, whatever resources on that card, you get that card immediately when you tuck it. So we would get another credit here that we get to add to our pile. So that's the orbiting situation. Then you would move your little marker here and, go up 9 points or whatever for your point total. You can also land, and that costs 3 energy, but you're able to get that down to a lower cost with tech, which we'll go over here in just a second. So if you land, you go in this spot down here on the planet, and you would get 2 data for being the first person that was landing there. And then you would also get 5 victory points, and you'd also get to put a marker on a trace of alien life. So you can kind of see up here, we've got 2 alien species that are face down right now. And once there are 3 markers right here, this is going to be flipped over and that alien species will be introduced into the game. So you would just take one of your markers and you'd place it on the yellow space right here, and that would get you 5 more points. So you'd move on here, and then that would also get you a publicity as well. And the publicity are going to be how you are going to purchase tech. So we'll go over that here in just a second. So that's another action that you can take. You can orbit and you can land. Another action that you can take is you can also scan, and you're going to mark different signals that are out here. So when you scan, you would pay 1 credit and 2 energy. That's the cost for that particular action. And you are going to scan. Now, the first spot you're going to scan is outlined right here on your player board, and that is the zone which Earth is in. So you would scan, you just kind of go out to this exterior ring right here, and then pick the first available data token off of there and put one of your markers in that spot. If you get the second marker, which is kind of interesting, not the first one, but the second one, you get 2 victory points there for marking the second spot. And then once this is all full, you look and you evaluate and you see who has the most markers, like an area majority type situation, and they are going to be the winner of that particular sector. So like in this case, if I were to win this sector, I would get 3 points, and I also get to research the pink part of this alien species, a trace of this alien species. So that is the scan action that you will do throughout the course of the game. There's also analyzing data. So you can see down here on your player board, once you have these data, which you're able to put out as a free action at any point on your turn, if you get all the way down here to the end of this, once you have all these filled in, you can pay 1 energy there and get a blue alien species that you're able to mark out here. So these will also flip over in just a second. I'll show you how that works. And there'll be many more spots that you can mark with your markers once you flip those over. So those are the various ways that you're going to kind of research the various alien species and get those traces of life from those alien species, is by doing those particular actions. The yellow ones are going to be mainly from landing on planets. The pink ones are going to be from researching or scanning and winning those sectors when you scan. And then the blue ones are going to be from analyzing data. Those are the main ways that you are going to get those throughout the course of the game. Now, the last action that you can take is you can research a tech, and that's going to cost you 6 of your publicity, but you would move your publicity marker down, and then you'd rotate the solar system. That's a really cool thing in this game. So this is going to be the first level of the solar system. That's the second. That's the third. You'll just take this and rotate this 1 space. But these all spin because they're all connected. So when you rotate the second level, that moves. And when you rotate the third, well, now the whole thing is spinning. So it's really useful to try and plan out when the solar system might spin, so that you can kind of maybe be closer to a planet that you were not as close to before. Like if you're on Earth and you want to get over here to Jupiter or whatever, if this moves, 2 or 3 spots, now you're a lot closer to being able to do that. So that is another action that you can take. And then when you research a tech, you can take any tech that's out there on the board. The 6 publicity is the cost. You don't have to do anything extra for that. And there's different techs that are going to do different things. These orange techs are going to help you when you orbit. And then these blue techs are going to help you when you analyze your data. And then the pink ones are going to help you when you scan. So you can kind of decide, do you want to diversify and have a couple of each? Do you want to get really strong in one particular area? Whatever you want to do. So if you get one of these, they just go on your player board. There's appropriate spots for all of them, and they just slide right in there because the player board's dual layered, which is very nice. You also get 2 points if you're the first person to take that particular tech, and then you get the resource that's listed on the back of the tech, and then you put the tech right there in that particular slot. So there's a lot of different techs that you can use throughout the course of the game as well. And then at the end of the round, you will pass. So you'll discard down to 4 cards. You'll rotate the solar system if you're the first person to pass this round, and then you're going to choose 1 card from these end of round cards to add to your hand. And that's basically how the game works. So now let's go over the alien species in the game. So once all 3 of these slots are filled up, and you'll see there are neutral markers out here on the board, and they've added these. This is really smart for when you are playing at lower play counts or if you're playing against the solo mode. So when you move past one of those spots, somebody's score marker, you will add one of those markers to one of the alien species over here. And once an alien has 3 markers on it, you will flip it over. Now, there are 5 different alien species that come in the game. And so what you will do is you will flip this over once you have revealed it. There's all those research spot or those alien species spots that I was talking about. Lots more places to put your marker and lots more symbols as well. So all the alien species are a little bit different. And so this one does things a little bit differently than this one, which does things differently from the other ones that come in the game. Now, the other really cool thing that they've included is they have info cards for each alien species that is in the game, telling you how to set that up. All the alien species have their own separate decks of cards, and then some of them do different things. So, like this one will do message milestones. And when you reach that particular spot on the scoring track, you will get to choose one of the rewards on your milestone when you reach it. This one also uses data that you're paying to get to some of the higher spots on that alien species. Well, this one's a little bit different. You're collecting fossil tokens, and what you're doing with that one is you have to spend those fossil tokens to get to particular places on the board. This one also has a little piece that goes onto the solar system map, and it's a place where you can land and also scan as well. So they all are just a little bit different. I'm not going to reveal all of them to you because it is kind of fun to discover them throughout the course of the game and also be surprised by which ones you might get in that particular game. And they all play just a little bit differently. Now, another really nice thing that they've done here for the solo mode, which I appreciate, is they all have solo rules right down here somewhere on the sheet. So when you play solo, it will tell you exactly what to do with that alien species when you reveal it and what the solo mode gets to do with that particular alien species as well. So again, really nice there that you don't have to consult the rule book for that. It's just laid out right here in front of you when you are playing solo. So the game goes for 5 rounds, and then whoever has the most points at the end of 5 rounds wins. And so now we will take a look at the solo mode, the solo components, and how that works for SETI. So I've moved my components out of the way for now to give you an overview of the solo mode and how that works for SETI. This is a very simple solo mode that you will be running. And you have these objective tiles as well, which we'll talk about here in just a second. They suggest you don't add those in for your first game, but that you do add them in when you are playing on higher difficulties. There are 5 difficulty levels that you can play on. You can see we've got the first board right here, which has the 1-star and the 2-star difficulty levels. And the other player boards have the other difficulty levels on the back. So you will just find, like this player board right here has the 4-star difficulty level. So you just find whichever difficulty level you want to play on and then use that particular player board. So as you go for the solo mode, it uses a deck of cards that is going to tell you which actions it's going to take on its particular turn. So you just flip the top card over and then you'll go down the list. This is saying, as the first alien species is discovered, you'll replace this card and resolve it. Now, another really cool thing for solo play is all the alien species have their own solo mode cards. So whenever you reveal your alien species, you will put that particular solo mode card into the deck once you encounter this card. And see, the other thing it wants to do, if it can't do that, is possibly spin 6 publicity to rotate the solar system and get a tech. And if it can't do that, it will scan. And so all of these are just that same way. If that's been discovered, you replace it. If it can't, it wants to move its probe 3 spaces. If it can't do that, it's going to get a tech. So you also see this arrow from time to time, and this arrow is going to move this dial right down here, this marker on this particular track. And when you get all the way around, you're going to add another card to the solo mode's deck. So you'll take the top card off of the other pile of solo mode cards that you will have sitting out there, and you'll just add it to the top of this deck, and now its deck will get a little bit bigger. It's a really nice way that the solo mode will gradually get more turns throughout the course of the game, as you are probably taking more turns throughout the course of the game because you are also getting stronger and being able to do more actions. Now, the solo mode doesn't collect a lot of stuff. It's not going to get credits. It's not going to get energy cards, alien cards, anything like that. Every time it would get one of those things, it will just move on this tracker right here. Now, it will collect text, though, and what it will do with those texts is it will use those as kind of ability to amp up its actions that it's taking. So, if it has an orange tech here, well, now when it, launches a probe, and if it can land, it will land on the moon. And the moons are worth more points. Over here, this is going to allow it to scan an additional card. And then here, this is going to allow it to move 1 on this particular space on its tracker here and also get 3 victory points. Now, the one other thing I did not mention when you are scanning is that you scan the sector that Earth is in, but you also pick one of these cards that is up here and you scan that particular sector as well. So all of these cards have a colored sector in the corner, and you will scan one of those corresponding colors. So if you had the blue card that you selected, you would scan in this blue sector. And the solo mode is going to do the same thing. When it scans, it's going to look at the Earth sector, and then 2 other cards, and it will use the decision arrow to determine which way it's going to go for that. So it's going to start from the left here. It would take to scan the blue and a yellow sector, and there's info in the rule book about how it decides which sectors to scan, and that's probably honestly the most difficult part of determining maybe exactly what it's going to do on its turn. So that's how you operate the solo mode. Very, very simple, very easy to do that. Now, on the higher levels, you're going to have these objectives. And so at the start of the game, you will flip these 3 objectives over. And these are for you as the player to accomplish. And once you accomplish one, you're going to put your marker on it and then move it over into your stack of stuff. And then at the end of the round, you're going to need to discard certain numbers of objectives to make the solo mode happy, basically. So you can see here at the end of the first round, you just need to discard 1, second round 2, third round 3, fourth round 4. For each one that you can't discard, you're going to move its marker, 3 spaces on here. It may get more cards, and it will likely get more actions and more chances to take more actions throughout the course of the round. Now, if there's any that you can't do by the end of the game, the solo mode gets 5 points for those uncompleted objectives. And there's a big stack of objectives that come with the game. And so that is another thing that you will be dealing with on higher difficulty levels for the solo mode. But that's how you operate the solo mode for SETI. Then the only other thing we did not go over is that there are these spaces at the top of the board. When you run past certain scoring points here as the solo player, not the solo mode, but as a solo player, you will mark one of those. And then if you're able to achieve these throughout the course of the game, these are usually sets of things, pairs of things, things like that. And there's 4 different ones up here. You will get that number of points at the end of the game. So lots to consider here in SETI, but that is an overview of how you play and how the solo mode works as well. So now let me go back and tell you what I like and dislike about this game. So you've seen how SETI plays and how the solo mode works. Now I'll share with you some of my likes and dislikes for this game. My first big like for this game is that I feel like there are just so many different paths to victory in this game, and I really enjoy that. Some games that you play, you focus on one particular strategy, and then something happens that blocks you out. Somebody gets the card that you wanted, or somebody takes a spot on the board that you were working up to send your worker to, or whatever the case may be. Well, in SETI, there's so many different things that you can do that your strategy can switch kind of on a dime, and it's very easy to divert to a different strategy to try and get more points. If you can't get orbiters out, you can say, okay, well, I'm going to survey, or maybe I have enough publicity that I can get another tech, or maybe I'll try to get some more cards into my hand and see if I have credits that I can play those cards to take actions. There's always a lot available to you, which feels really, really good. It never feels like you're boxed in. You can kind of go do whatever you want. It's sandboxy in that way, and that's one aspect of this game that I really enjoy. Another thing that I really like for this game is that this game feels very thematic, even though it is a Euro. Sometimes you get a Euro with a very dry theme. It feels like you're just doing the mechanisms, but they don't really relate to the theme of the game at all. That's not the case here in SETI. It does feel like you are going out, you are launching these probes, you are exploring, you're, landing or orbiting these planets, you're finding out more about these alien species. It all comes together very nicely throughout the course of the game, and I feel like this is a really good theme for this particular game. I feel like the mechanisms fit with the theme and they match up very well. That also helps make the rules easy to understand because you are doing things that relate to the theme, so it makes sense in your mind, kind of what's happening throughout the course of the game. I think the space theme can be overused at times. A lot of games have space themes nowadays, but I feel like it fits this game really well, and the actions that you are taking throughout the course of the game match up with the theme of the game. Also, another like that I have for this game is that the alien species really add variety into this particular game. There's 5 that come in the base game. I'd have to think they're going to come out with expansions that'll have more alien species that you can add in, and each one of them plays differently. I was really impressed by the variety of the alien species. Some add spots to the board. Some are more focused on spending data. Some are focused on collecting other resources to get spots on those tracks. And they all work a little bit differently, and their cards all work a little bit differently as well in terms of what you can do with them. So that aspect of it, I really enjoyed. The fact that whenever one of those alien species came out, it always felt like they played a little bit differently. They were all very unique in terms of kind of what they did, but the setup for them was very easy and very similar. So I really liked that aspect of it, that when one of those did come out, you didn't have to search for a while to figure out which components you needed. You just grab that deck of cards, the few things that go with that alien species, and you are good to go. But the way that they are playing throughout the course of the game is unique for each one of those that is included in the game. Another like for this game is that the table presence is fantastic. You probably saw it in the overview there, but the setup for this game is really, really well done. It just looks fantastic on the table. The board is great. The components are really well done as well. I have one minor issue with the components, which I'll bring up in dislikes, but for the most part, components are really, really high quality. The various boards, the planet board, the boards with the text on them, that looks great. The dual layered player boards where you slot the text into them, that was really nice too. And I like that even though that this is a big setup, you really do have to have a big table to be able to play this. Your player area is very small, which is something that I appreciated. You really only need your player board, and then you have your deck of cards, you have your little income tracker that you're keeping track of somewhere in your resources. And that's really all the space that you need for the player area. And so that is something that I thought they took into consideration when, designing this game and figuring out how much space it was going to take up. It has a really big main board where you're taking those main actions, but the player area is small, and sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes you have a giant main board and then also a giant player area that you have to try and manage. It wasn't the case here with SETI, so that's something that I really appreciated. And the solo modes player setup is pretty reasonable as well. Nothing outrageous there, and we'll talk more about the solo mode coming up here in just a second. Another thing that I really enjoy for this game is that all of the actions in the game are really cool to do. None of them feel like a lame action. Sometimes you might have a case where, oh, these 4 are really, really neat, but these 2 over here, they kind of suck. They don't get you, a lot of stuff, and you don't really want to take them. That's not the case here in SETI. Everything that you do feels good, whether you're sending a probe out into orbit, whether you're landing on a planet, maybe you're getting a new tech, maybe you're surveying and gathering data. All of those actions feel really, really good because you're always getting something for them. It might be resources, it might be points, it might be progress on a track, but those all feel really good, and I like how they've balanced it here with the traces of alien life as well, and that you do the different things to get different colors for those alien life traces. So you kind of have to focus on a lot of different areas throughout the course of the game to be able to build up your relationships with those alien species. But on the flip side of that, like I said earlier, if something isn't working, you can divert and build a really strong engine in one particular area. One game of this I played, I had a really strong data engine going. So I was doing a lot of actions that involved data. Another, I was able to get my probes out a lot. Another, I had a lot of movement cards. So I was gaining publicity and getting more techs and landing on planets. So all of it just felt really, really good. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the solo mode and the solo components for this game. I really enjoyed the solo mode for SETI, and I like how you can scale the difficulty as well. There's 5 different levels that you can play on, and those do get harder as you go up. The first level is pretty easy, just to get you an understanding of the game, and they actually recommend that you play on that level the first time that you play and don't even use those objectives that I showed you in the overview. But with those 5 levels, it will scale up faster, it will increase its difficulty, and so once you feel like you can beat it easily, you can move up to that next level. I feel like it will provide a lot of replayability here because the challenge will always be there with the solo mode difficulty. I also like how it adds cards throughout the course of the game, and it really does balance how many turns it's taking around versus how many turns you are taking around. It feels pretty even most of the time. There are a few times when the solo mode might take 1 extra turn than you in a round, but for the most part, as you are building up and getting stronger, the solo mode is building up and getting stronger with the addition of those cards that it is adding to its deck. But I never felt like, oh, the solo mode is taking 4 or 5 more turns than me this round. It felt very even in terms of how many I was taking versus how many the solo mode was taking. So good balance there, good design there as well to make sure that that kind of matched up with you and the solo mode throughout the course of the game. The solo objectives are also really cool to work towards during the game, and they give you little things to work towards. So while you're trying to do other stuff out on the main board and do those actions, you've also got to worry about these solo objectives, because if you're not able to cash those in at the end of the round, the solo mode is going to get stronger, and then each one that you don't have completed at the end of the game is worth 5 points to the solo mode. So they really do make it that you have to focus on those throughout the course of the game. But I like how many different ones come in the box, how varied they are. The different difficulty levels balance those difficulties of objectives. So the easier levels have less of the really, really difficult ones, and the harder levels have more of those that you have to accomplish. But they're all very varied, for lack of a better phrase there. So there's different things that you've got to do with those solo objectives. Some you might have to get publicity. Some you might have to get cards. Some want you to orbit or land on the moon or survey data. And so you're still doing those various actions, but you really have to diversify because of those objectives that you have to get done throughout the course of the game. And another my final like for this game is that there is actually a solo how to play video from the publisher. I'll put it in the description here. Now, I just don't see that very often. I feel like that is unique. Of course, people like me will do solo overviews or how to plays or something like that, but to get an actual video from the publisher that is a solo mode how to play, I thought that was just fantastic. I had a rules question, and I just went and watched that video and got my answer right away. I didn't have to go on BGG and look in the forums and figure out somebody else that had that same question, which is usually what I have to do when I'm trying to find out something about the solo mode, just because there's not as many resources out there about that. But they have the regular how to play video and the solo mode how to play video. I hope that's a trend that we see more, because I thought that was really, really well done, and also another way for you to learn the game. If you are a solo player, you don't have to just refer to the rule book. You can also watch a video for this one on how to play it. So those are all my likes with SETI. Now let's move into my dislikes. So I don't have a ton of dislikes for this game. I think this is a really well done game. It's rising the ranks of Board Game Geek very rapidly. It's been very popular ever since it has come out, and I think all of that praise is well deserved. It is really well designed and is a very fun game to play. I do just have a few dislikes, and those all kind of revolve around the solo mode for the game. Now, I think it's still a very good solo mode, but the few things that I would have liked to see done a little bit differently with the solo mode. One is I would love a solo player aid. There are player aids for regular players and for the actions that you can take throughout the course of the game, but some of the icons that the solo mode used in its player mode and what it was doing, I had to refer back to the rule book, especially during the first game. I pretty much had the rule book open the entire time, figuring out what the solo mode did, because sometimes it's doing things just a little bit differently than you are doing your actions. There's some icons that it is using that you don't see encountered a ton during, regular gameplay. So I would have just liked a solo player aid included in the box. Again, that's a very minor thing, but I think it would have helped to have all those actions laid out. And somebody actually has made one on Board Game Geek, which I printed out and I use, and that's a really nice resource to just be able to glance at that, match up the icons with the action, and know exactly what the solo mode has to do without referring to the rule book. Another dislike that I had for this game is sometimes the solo mode's turns can be a little lengthy, especially when they are doing certain actions. Now, if they are just, launching a probe basically and getting it out on Earth and then, not doing anything else, that's a quick action. But sometimes they might move to another planet, they might land on that planet, they might orbit that planet, so now you're having to collect resources possibly for them, give them points. This game is very combo-tastic in the sense that when you do something, it'll trigger something else a lot of the times, and that also occurs for the solo mode. So sometimes you have these solo mode turns that are pretty lengthy when you are making sure that it's got everything that it needs to get, when you're moving its, points up, maybe you've got to move some other trackers as well. Sometimes I just found that the solo mode turn, I was like, oh my gosh, this is really taking a while, especially after I did a turn that was something very simple, like get a tech or something like that. That was a very quick action The solo mode's action sometimes can be just a little bit lengthy in this game. Another dislike that I have for this game is I feel like I didn't really interact with the alien species a ton throughout the course of the game, and I feel like this might be the case when you play it at lower player counts. I could see if you were to play this game at 3 or 4 players, how more players would be visiting those alien species, and that would be a bigger factor in the game. But when I was playing this against the solo mode, it felt like, oh, those are nice that those are out on the board. That's a place to go. Those are some points to go get throughout the course of the game, but I don't feel like I'm really using them a ton. I was maybe getting 1 or 2 cards from the alien species throughout the course of the game. Likewise, the solo mode wasn't visiting those spots a ton either. So I just feel like there wasn't a lot of interaction with that particular part of the game while I was going throughout the course of these games for this review. I didn't find myself interacting with those alien species a ton. I do think they were cool and they were all unique, and that was a positive, but I just felt like I didn't get to go to those spots a lot or really explore how they worked a ton because it just wasn't a big priority for myself or for the solo mode throughout the course of the game. So those are all my dislikes with SETI. Again, very minor quibbles with what I think is a really, really fantastic game, a really well done Euro, very fun to play. Solo mode works really, really well too. And so I am giving SETI a 9 out of 10. This is a great game. This is one that I would highly suggest that you pick up and you check out, especially if you like the theme, if you like Euro games, if you like point salad games, games where you can create some combos. Lots of different paths to victory. All of those things factor in. I enjoy all of that. And so, like I said, SETI is a 9 out of 10. Really solid from CGE here for this game about space and aliens. So if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. That definitely helps out the channel. Be sure to check out other videos that I have on my channel as well. Until next time, I'm Jared. You've been checking out Specifically Solo.